Welcome back. In this module, we're going to be talking about coin research and coins to invest in. Of course, other than the markets and reading charts, that's great, but what if you don't know anything about the actual coin, why it exists, why it was developed, and different things like that? Very important. Couple of the best places to start out are actually on forums in Google. So you can go to a site called bitcointalk.org. It's a forum where people talk about Bitcoin and about alternative currencies. So you could literally type in XRP, for example, like Ripple, and search. XRP is the abbreviation for Ripple, and you need to make an account on here. Okay, so I should tell you that first. You want to make a username and a password, create an account on here. It's free, but you'll be able to do some research on different coins and what's going on in here. And there's a lot of very active members in here that actually know a lot about Bitcoin. You can just tell. You listen to the way they talk and what they say, and you can tell. So it is a forum though, so take it with a grain of salt and be able to distinguish the BS from the real talk, because there's going to be people. I always see this in the automotive industry, which is where I came from. I spent 4 years in professional sales in the automotive industry. And for example, you take diesel truck owners like Ford, Chevy, and Dodge. And some guy will be like, oh, well, I like Chevy. Chevy's the best. And you're like, why? Well, because it's got a Duramax in it. You're like, okay, awesome, dude. Sounds like you really know your stuff. And then you'll take a Dodge guy and be like, oh, well, the Cummins is the best motor in the world. That's the engine in Dodge diesel trucks. But, well, it's Cummins all the way long. Yeah, it's better than the rest. Why? Well, because it's awesome. I'm like, okay, thanks, buddy. Good job. You just keep doing what you do and plugging along in life. And so you got to distinguish what's real, what's not. bitcointalk.org, great place. You can also do research on Google. So if we go in and type in on Google, whoops, I'm already going to be on Google. Let's type in Ripple coin info. And really, the first couple results in Google going to be great. So let's look at XRP's main site. Let's go on there and let's figure out what it's actually about. Why did it get developed? Was it just a copycat coin, or is there something revolutionary about it that would make it a good long-term coin? Because it is. It's a good long-term coin. Let's scroll down and let's find out what they want to tell us about Bitcoin, or about Ripple, excuse me. Using XRP, banks can source liquidity on demand in real time without having to pre-fund Nostro accounts. Payment providers use XRP to expand reach into new markets, lower foreign exchange costs, provide faster payment settlement. Benefits, okay. 4 seconds, okay, so it's got a very fast process of trading and sending it from one wallet to another. That's really great. That's really cool. So it takes 4 seconds. That's pretty revolutionary. So when it was developed, one of the points they obviously wanted to focus on is they wanted to go, okay, well, you know, Bitcoin through the blockchain network can take 20 minutes. It can take 72 hours or anywhere in between. Typically, it's an hour to 2 hours, but it's not the fastest. It's a lot faster than wire transfers and checks and clears and stuff like that with bank accounts. But Ripple has gone ahead and exploited the fact that Bitcoin maybe takes an hour on average to go from one wallet into a recipient's wallet. So they said, you know what, let's make something fast. That could have a huge demand, because if people want money instantly, that's a currency I would keep an eye on. What else? Consistently handles 1,500 transactions per second on a 24/7 scale. That's crazy. The same throughout as Visa. Can scale to handle the same throughput as Visa. Wow. That's pretty dang cool. So we're reaching into the banking world and saying, hey, we're coming for you, Visa. Distributed open source technology built on the principles of blockchain with a growing set of validators. Pretty cool. So they got stuff all over the world here. Find out. Do a little bit of research on coin. Now, here's another point to bring up is distribution. And I saw that word up here somewhere, distributed. Distribution is very important. When a coin is developed, what it has to do is, usually coins are developed and distributed through crowdfunding. So they'll actually say, hey, look, we're launching a coin. We want to get it on the exchanges. You can buy in right now. You can get it at this price. And every week it's going to go up X amount of price until it hits the exchange. And it's going to hit the exchange at $5 a coin, at 73 cents a coin, at $32.14 per coin. What you have to look at is distribution, though. You want to find out, for example, does the public own the majority of the coin, or do the developers own the majority of the coin? Because oftentimes what can happen is if the developers own, let's just say, even 30% of the coin, or 50 or 60%, say they own a large portion of the coin, they have the right to do so. They develop the coin, public owns the rest of it. But what happens if all at once they decide to dump that coin onto the exchange, or they decide to dump it out into the marketplaces? It's going to lower the value of the coin immensely. So if you bought on, say, an ICO, for example, and you bought into it and it was on this huge hype, and then it hit the exchanges, so you bought in prior to the exchange, it hits the exchange at $5, and all of a sudden the developers, which hold the majority of the coin, just dump it out on the exchange, it's going to have an immense dip in value, and it's going to be some time before we see what the market does with that coin, and before it finds buyer support, seller resistance, goes through a breakout, comes back down, finds a new level of buyer support, seller resistance, and we see what it does from there. So you won't usually make money right away. So you need to understand the distribution. Do the developers control the supply? If they control too much and then dump it, it will devalue the coin and make it hard for trading in the short term, and especially if you're currently invested in the coin. Also, rate of inflation. Too much devalues purchasing power, okay? So if it's being released out into the market too rapidly or too often, it can devalue the coin because too much is available and there's not enough demand to take up that available supply. So that has a lot to do with it. The next thing is trade volume. So if we go back over into Bittrex, for example, this coin right here, XEM, has a 5,043 Bitcoin volume for today. And going back to the very beginning of the trading, when I popped on the homepage of Bittrex, we talked about this. I talked about, I'm looking for volatility. I'm looking for volume. Volume, aka a volatility. When you have volume, you have something very important that we call liquidity. Okay, you can liquidate your assets. If you see an opportunity to sell where you're going to make an immense profit, you can sell and you can liquidate it very quickly. But if there's not volume, that means people aren't buying. And if people aren't buying, you have a product sitting on the shelf that won't sell. So it's very important that a coin have trade volume. Next, is there active developments, or is it just another copycat, as I said earlier? Is it something where the developers of this coin are very heavily invested into it, both not only in money but also in time? Are they committed to seeing it through to new levels? Are they committed to making this coin revolutionary or have some sort of specific feature or benefit about it that most other coins don't? Something that could cause it to really continue to increase in value in the long term. Because if coins don't have active developments or improvements, they can actually get delisted from the exchange. So these are all very important things when you're actually doing your research about a coin. These are the things that I look at. And then lastly, I also look at news. What's the news saying about this coin? Because news and media have a lot to do with it. I mean, look at the news all the time. It's always who's shooting who, or what's going on here, or who's killing who, or what terrorist attacks have happened. And I'm not getting, anti-political or anti-government or anything like that. All I'm saying is the news, they have their own viewpoints, right? So even if it's a positive bias or a negative bias, or if it's the truth or if it's a blatant lie, you got to consider that. Okay, you got to consider that and how it's going to affect the coin. The good thing is, usually for us, when the media starts talking about a coin and hyping it up, it just helps to make the coin of that, the value of that coin increase. So if we have looked at the charts in the past and seen a good point to invest in, and then the media gets involved and says, hey, keep an eye on this coin, invest in it, and we start getting a whole bunch of buyer support, it's going to be opportunities for us that already hold it to create some good trades from a sales standpoint. So the media can have a really good positive effect on that. Likewise, they can also have a negative effect for altcoins, saying, oh, Richard Branson came out and said this Bitcoin or this particular coin is a bad coin to invest in. And if you get a heavy hit from somebody that is in the banking world or in the investment world or as an A-tier top-level entrepreneur or something like that in the financial industry, that can be a lot of pain to go through because we're having somebody that is very well recognized or a public figure saying, hey, no, Bitcoin is bad. A few months ago, the owner of JP Morgan Chase came out, or CEO, and said, any of my employees that currently hold Bitcoin or are using Bitcoin will be fired. Now, he's either a huge idiot, which I believe him to be so, or he's a very smart idiot where he said, watch, here's what I'm going to do. I know I have a voice. I'm going to tell people that Bitcoin's a scam. It's going to go down in value. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of it. Well, that'd be pretty witty, pretty creative, and that'd be a great sales method. Pretty dirty one, but who knows? Maybe that's what he did. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. It's just pretty interesting. So you got to take into consideration the media as well. Now, what next? What about coins to invest in? I'm going to tell you some coins and you can write these down. And I'm not going to tell you these are the only coins because they're not the only coins. You need to do this research for yourself, and that's why I'm teaching you this. But some coins that I'm personally invested in that I would keep an eye on, where you can create short-term trades and you can create long-term profits as well. They serve good purposes for both. You have XEM, which is New Economy. So you got XEM, write that down. You have XLM, which is a great coin. You have Ripple, which is XRP. You have LTC, Litecoin. You have Dash, which is DASH. You have Ethereum, which is ETH. And those three, Litecoin, Dash, and Ethereum, are all operating in a Bitcoin trend, okay? They have gone from being worth pennies or dollars to being worth hundreds of dollars and approaching thousands, like Dash, $600, $700. Litecoin has almost doubled in the last 3 days while recording these videos. These are all coins. Stack them up. Like I said earlier, when you are day trading or you're using exchanges, you're either using alternative currencies to accumulate Bitcoin, or you're using alternative currencies to accumulate very strong, very solid foundation, powerful alternative currencies, such as Dash, Litecoin, and Ethereum. Other coins to look at would be Dogecoin, DOGE. Those are a couple good coins as well. Syscoin is a great coin. SYS. Power is a good coin. Power Ledger, POWR. Strat, STRAT. These are all long-term coins. Scicoin, SC. Scicoin has been on a very, very, very low right now, and depending on when you're watching this video, I don't know and I can't promise you what it's at, but I can tell you right now it is less than 1 US penny. Can it be worth less than that? Pretty dang hard to. Coin really can't be worth less than a penny. So what does that mean to me? Heck, buy all of them. It goes up 2 pennies, I have a 200% return on investment. Wow. Why not? I would do that. I would strongly advise that. Gosh, if you could accumulate a couple Bitcoin on coins like that and be able to invest a couple Bitcoin worth in coins like that, imagine how much money you stand to make. So those are coins that I suggest for long-term profits and also short-term trades. For example, like XEM that we have on here, New Economy. You can see that I have a chart here where I've opened it over to about a month and a week. So, well, it's 2 months really, but we can see November in here. We can see the beginning of December in here. Something I want you guys to notice, because I saw this today and I saw it as a very good opportunity, and I actually posted this in my Facebook groups just a few minutes ago. I told people, buy this. Go buy it right now. Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Buy it. Okay? And here's why. Some of you guys are like, well, why would I buy it now? Because just the other day it was way down here. I see a trend. I see a pattern. I see something going on with the history. Do you see what I see? Look where I have my mouse right now. Look where it is, and look at that line that has drawn out here. It went up massively a couple days ago. You can see that long green candlestick, right? With that huge upper shadow, signifying that there's 1, tons of volume, and 2, it was likely overbought because it came down quickly and moved into what's appearing to be a bear market. But do you see where it's at right now? It's reached a historical line of buyer support and seller resistance. This line has been seeming to be the line that it crosses over and weaves in and out of for the last month and a week now. You can see going all the way back into November here, we have reached this line of buyer support, seller resistance, 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 and then we tanked the other day, which once again, when this happened, this was when Bitcoin was on a giant bubble, became overbought, went all the way up to $18,302. The media came in, said invest, it's broken a record. The holders of alternative currencies that were unintelligent and uneducated withdrew out of fear, going over to Bitcoin, investing in it, putting it on a massive bubble. It could not sustain itself there. At a point, it stopped receiving buyer support. People said, no, this is too much. Sellers couldn't sell it for more than that or any higher. It received no more support. It tanked. People came back over to alternative currencies, thus driving up the value, which is what we saw here just a couple days ago. I profited from that. We looked at the profits I'd made from that earlier in the videos, and then it moved into a bear market, hitting its historical level of buyer support and seller resistance. Hence why I'm saying buy now. And when I made this announcement, it was at 24.97. Look at this. It's now at 25.90. So already it has gone back up about 2-3 cents since making that statement about a half hour before recording this video. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe it continues going downward. But I also see that there's been a change in volume. We had, an okay amount of volume here. We had an okay amount of volume here. We had tons of volume here. Decent amount of volume here. But it's really slowed down. Okay, so what I am anticipating, and I could be wrong because you're not always going to be right as a trader, but I would anticipate that when this new candlestick opens, I have a feeling we're going to see a very, very low volume red bear market candlestick with an upper lower shadow on each end possibly, and then heading back into a green bull trending upward market. Okay, so examples of coins you can invest in, examples of coin research, and now we are going to talk about setting up notifications so you can increase your profits and have better entrance points into trades and better exit points. We'll see you in the next video.